Hi, Chuck Hawley from West Marine. Today I'm joined by Kevin Osborne and we're going to talk about anchor roads. This video is part of the West Advisor Do-It-Yourself project series. And you know, this is a critical part of every boat's inventory. We're going to be talking about how to select anchor road components, how to assemble one yourself if you want, or how to order one from West Marine Rigging. So what are some of the attributes that you'd look for in an anchor road?
Well, Chuck, before I answer that, I want to point out that we use the term road because it may not be made out of line at all. Anchor road is a general term for the line and or chain that connects the anchor to the boat.
So we're going to be talking about all chain road, all nylon road, and everything in between. So what are some of the attributes? We come up with 5 attributes that we're looking for in anchor road. What would some of those be?
Ideally, an anchor road is very chafe resistant since the seabed as well as the boat's rollers or chocks can be abrasive. Second, an anchor road should keep the pull on the anchor shank horizontal to maximize the anchor's holding power. Third, the anchor road should be lightweight since you don't want to cart around extra weight if you don't have to. And fourth, you want the road to be elastic, or at least absorb the shock that's caused by the boat's motion. Finally, anchor roads have to be strong to resist the loads caused by wind, waves, and current.
Okay, let me see if I got that right. The ideal anchor road would be chafe resistant, pull horizontal on the shank, lightweight, elastic, and strong. Kevin, why doesn't one type of anchor line suffice for all boating uses?
Well, Chuck, I mean, boating's extremely varied. You're going to be boating in all different conditions, all different size boats, so there's not one anchor road that works well or perfect for everybody. So today we want to talk about 4 primary combinations of anchor roads.
Okay.
But all of them are really comprised of 2 things. One is using a high-quality 3-strand nylon anchor line like that we have from New England Ropes. And the second is using a high-quality hot-dip galvanized chain like we have from ACO. What rule of thumb would you use in selecting the size of anchor line?
You know, for many, many years we've used a really simple rule, and it's stood up extremely well over those years. And that is that to size the anchor line, you use 1/8 of an inch of diameter of anchor line for every 9 feet of boat. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means if you have a 3/8 inch anchor line, that will work for boats up to about 27 feet. And if you have a 5/8 inch anchor line, that will go up to as high as 45 feet. Now, there are always exceptions to this if you have an extremely lightweight boat or an extremely heavy boat. But that basic rule of 1/8 of an inch of diameter for every 9 feet of boat length seems to work really well.
So Chuck, is there a similar rule of thumb we would use for sizing chain?
Yeah, and this one's really simple. You simply use the chain size that's half the size of the rope. So for example, if you're using 1/2 inch rope, you'd use 1/4 inch chain, and that works well over really any size of line and chain.
Okay, so here's another equally important question. How long should my anchor line be?
It's a good question, and you know, the classic answer to that is that you need to use a scope of 7:1. Well, what does scope mean? Scope is where you look at the depth of the water, the maximum depth of the water, plus the freeboard of your boat, and multiply it by 7 to figure out how long your anchor line ought to be. This works really, really well, but it's a conservative rule, and you may find that you can get away with 5:1 scope, although you may have to add additional vigilance or additional chain. So this is perhaps the simplest anchor road setup, 150 feet of 3/8 inch nylon line with it's pre-spliced. And to that, we're just going to add a little galvanized shackle, put it right through the top of the traditional 8 anchor. And for lake or river use, this is a pretty darn good combination.
To make this anchor package even more effective, you really want to add a piece of chain between the anchor and the anchor line. Now, the general rule of thumb is to use a length of chain equivalent to the boat length. So 24-foot boat would use a 24-foot length piece of chain.
You know, this is really a time-honored suggestion of 1 boat length of chain to maximize your holding power. In fact, people will use all sorts of different lengths, but if you had to choose just sort of a general rule of thumb, that's a pretty good one.
Now, to connect it, you're going to need to use a shackle, and you want to use the sizing up rule. So whatever size anchor chain you're using, let's say it's 5/16 chain, then you want to use a 3/8 shackle. And obviously you're going to use a shackle between the chain and the anchor. You're going to use another shackle between the chain and the anchor line.